Hello guys, it's the Sneezing Monkey. Thanks for watching this video. As promised in my last video, I'm gonna bring you a bit of a different gameplay this time. This is Raymond Origins. I'm playing together with my wife. She is that little green character you see there, and I am the Rayman figure. So this is a really good game. If you haven't played that yet, I can highly recommend you to go for it and purchase it on Steam or wherever, which platform you're playing. It's really great, probably even in single player. I've only played it with multiplayer and co-op, but you know, even single player is probably really good. The artworks are just so gorgeous, and there's a great variety in different looks and feels and different levels. You can see it here right now, and at the same time it's really challenging because it's not really easy. I mean, I don't play so many jump and runs, so I wouldn't consider myself like somebody who's really good at jump and runs, but yeah, I think I know a bit. I mean, I've played Super Mario Land on Game Boy about 20 million times when I was young. So yeah, I know the mechanics, and that's another thing. The mechanics of this game are just so great. You can easily control it, and you just feel while you play that you are in control. With many other games, you know, like I've played Trine, for instance. It just feels like really wobbly and wonky, and you just don't feel that you are in control of the person. And they didn't, in my opinion, didn't manage to simplify the game enough to make it work and to make it really fun to play. So yeah, Rayman Origins, great fun game, definitely worth the money. Yeah, then I'm going to use this commentary because it is quite long, to continue or pick up from my first part talking about the E3. There's still a lot of titles that I didn't bring up in my first game, in my first commentary. Sorry. I mean, here you can see that we just died, so the level just starts again, and the level is separated in like different parts. So it's quite good. It's basically like a respawn point when you play a shooter or something, so you don't have to play everything again. So yeah, back to the E3. One thing that also of course interests all of us a little bit, at least, is Black Ops 2. It was quite interesting what Treyarch showed this year. The thing that struck me most about was the new Strike Force mode that they introduced, and it took me a bit to understand it, because when they showed the gameplay it looked really confusing, and it nearly suddenly got these strategic elements, and so in the beginning I didn't really like it, but now that I looked a bit closer at the previews and the gameplay, I think it could get really interesting, because they are basically mixing we died again, that's really annoying. They are mixing elements of strategic games like Command and Conquer, nearly, yeah, where you see it from like a top view, and you can position your units, and you can see where the enemies are, and act very strategically. But then you could zoom into each unit, right? So whether it be a tank or just a normal player or a little drone that flies around, and then you can play from the ego perspective of that unit. So that was really interesting actually, and I look forward to play around with that. And if I understood them right, that will come out as like a third game type basically. So you're gonna have your normal single player, your multiplayer experience, you're gonna have Spec Ops or zombie mode, and on top of that you will have this new Strike Force mode, which, you know, I think is great. And I think the guys at Treyarch doing a great job also to evolve the game in their own way. And I think especially at Modern Warfare 3 you could see that Infinity Ward didn't, in my opinion, deliver, you know, what kind of games like Modern Warfare 1 lived up to, and I think it's now the time to shine for Treyarch, really. And they might as well do it with Black Ops, so I'm kind of stoked for that. And my main concern really is that they keep the games simple enough so the frame rate stays up, because I can't handle it when you even have 30 or 35 frames per second at a shooter. It's just not enough. You need these 60 FPS constantly. So I hope they you know, focus on that. It really looks great, so I hope we don't have to pay with performance with that great looks of the game. And looking forward for the release of that. Then Far Cry. Far Cry is an interesting case because during their presentation, the conference, they showed, it's a great moment in the game right now, the gameplay. You can see running up that mountain, and the whole theme of this level is Tibetan in a way. It feels like you're in the Tibetan mountains, and then you have these little monk figures coming in there, awkward looking monks, and then you have to dance with them together, as you can see here. Try to keep the rhythm, and if you do it right, the door opens. So we're doing it not really right. My wife is not doing it right, basically, so she's not holding the rhythm. But now she did it, and we can progress into the inside. And that also looks just great, you know, this warm feeling, the light, and you have these bags of spices laying around. It's just such a nice way to tell like a really nice narrative in a jump and run game, I think. So yeah, but coming back to Far Cry, I saw that trailer during the conference, and that looked really good, and I thought, wow, Far Cry must be great. You know, it was the one where they showed this psychedelic trip with a naked girl dancing around you, and I thought, you know, looks really promising. But then I saw another coverage from E3 where they showed actual gameplay, or was it also on stage where they showed this co-op gameplay? So there were like, I think, 3 people playing through the campaign. And that looked not very good, in the sense that it looked quite wonky and not very well to control, which is something I really can't stand in shooters. When the controls are not 100% right, I can't enjoy them, at least not as much as games who got it right. So yeah, I hope they get that correct, and that they don't mess up with the controls, and that it feels right and smooth to control. But I think the setting is great. The story is great. I loved when you could see that the guy that the story is about, the main character, sorry I forgot his name, but he kind of rises up, you know, to become a leader of this cult that is situated on the island. I don't know much about the narrative, but I think there's a lot of potential there to make it a really nice thing, and that, you know, has a few twists to it, like a bit like nearly like Apocalypse Now or something, where, you know, it's a lot about the insanity of killing and the insanity of war. So yeah, if they get that right, it can be the most amazing game. I loved Far Cry 2. Most people hated it. I think it was great. It had its errors, you know, that all the units respawn every time you kill out one of these outposts. That was, of course, the most annoying thing ever. But besides that, I loved the landscape design. I loved the fire feature, that the desert, once you light it up on fire, it keeps burning depending where the wind comes from. So that was really great, and I hope they pick a few of these things up in Far Cry 3. And yeah, looks like a really promising game. Besides that, something that stood out for me was Tomb Raider. I've played Tomb Raider when I was younger. I've played Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3, I think, and then I kind of lost it. I liked Tomb Raider 3. That was, in my opinion, a quite good game, where you had things like in the middle of the game you have to dive down to in the middle of the ocean and find like a wrecked ship and get inside the wrecked ship, and then there was a level inside that, and you know, you had to fight with sharks in that, and it was quite a nice way of telling that story. So I mean, Tomb Raider, the new one, looks very much like Uncharted. I think nobody will deny that. It's very inspired by what Naughty Dog did, and which is a good thing, you know, which can be really nice, because Uncharted is a great game. It's great fun, and it's nearly like there's like a new genre growing at the moment, where you have such cinematic games, because the graphics have reached a point that they can make things happen that you just couldn't make happen a few years ago. So you have games like Uncharted who still stay quite playful in a way, and then you have things like Heavy Rain that just try to tell a story, and it's basically a huge collection of quick time events. But I think it's great. It's a new genre, and I love it that games go closer to cinematic narratives and to cinematic storytelling, and create a really nice and immersive experience like that. So yeah, I think that's really good, and I think this gameplay nearly comes to an end now. What else did I see at A3? let me think. Assassin's Creed 3 was kind of introduced, they showed a bit of gameplay, and I have to say it did draw me in more than previous Assassin's Creed games. I've played Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2, and then I kind of lost it simply because I was bored of the mechanic. I couldn't see it anymore, I couldn't play it anymore. Yes, it looked great, but it just was always the same from my point of view. But Assassin's Creed 3, you know, it has this whole element of running through more natural environments, using trees to move across the terrain, and it just seems like they try to bring a broader variety of gameplay to the Assassin's Creed series, instead of just being always about climbing buildings and climbing high towers and jumping down again. So that was great. The pirate scene that they showed at E3, where you're actually steering a huge ship, was fantastic. Assassin's Creed is gonna be great, I think. So a nice refreshing look at the series. I hope that will come soon. I don't have the release date in mind right now. Right now you can see we actually crashed the 300 points in the end of this Rayman round, which means you get these little golden tokens that you've just seen, and that's what you do when you try to max out every level. So yeah, fantastic game, love that. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'm out. See you next time.